probably seen some cringe movies in your life, like Anyone But You and The Notebook, but this recently released movie called The Gorge will fit in the mold of some of the cringiest movies ever made. The first real cringe thing about the movie are how the two main characters show each other these love notes on paper to show each other through the distance from the towers to communicate. After they have been spying on each other through their weapons and binoculars during the beginning. Before this, there is of course a long backstory where none of the characters see each other for a while, and they try to tell the story separately. Some will of course describe the way we see these love notes in the movie between characters a brilliant delivery. I will however call it cringe because the whole situation feels forced and not natural at all. Of course I understand if you create a love story here you cannot use sign language, but if you talk in a creative sense, it actually would have been more creative. Anyways, I will describe it as cringe, and the way I see it, they could have done this love story thing in a different way. The second wrong thing, and of course Frank's thing about the movie, is how you see Anya Taylor Joy failing to do a Lithuanian accent. So she may try her best, but when it just ain't working, why not just cast her as an American character instead? I don't really understand why she has to be Lithuanian. Other than the attempt to create a contrast between characters, where in a lot of spy stories you see these characters from different countries, but of course in other spy/romance stories such as Havana or Shanghai, you manage to do this better, because you use characters that actually are able to do the accent they are signed to do. When the delivery is that bad from Anya, I mean she just sounds American almost in any role she plays. She should not have done it, and just have stuck to her Miami accent like she usually does. As also one of the reasons this movie fails to be believable. Another thing to point a finger on in this movie, when it comes to the non-cringe element, is about this persistent woke element where of course this female operative has to be a better sniper than the main character dubbed the best sniper in the world, which is not a realistic scenario, which only becomes realistic when they meet each other in Paris after she of course thought he was dead, but instead shows up and tells her about how he now has broken a record. This is done better in the best movie from last year called The Ministry of Gentleman Warfare, where this black character called Heron says that the female character called Marjorie Stewart is a better shot than anybody on the other team, which actually was a real person played in this movie by Isa Gonzalez, because here she does not claim she is the best, she's only suggested to be the best, unlike in this movie where Anya brags about being the best, which of course may be perceived as a joke between these two operatives, but at best it is a highly corny woke joke not in contact with reality. Another very cringe thing in this forced/unnatural love story thing is how you see this lovebird mood emboldened by cringe love songs between Miles Teller and Anya Taylor Joy after he climbs over to her place for dinner. In many ways, this is perhaps where the story begins after that long backstory, but then what happens both in the love distance thing before that, with love notes sent on paper and close contact after the climbing, is a sure way to tell a story in a cringe way. This next chapter will be, besides the cringe framework yet again, we need to mention the character played by Sigourney Weaver, which is a annoying element in the movie. In the movie, we see a tired and lethargic act from her as a tough Peggy Sue kind of character, as the leader of this strange research that sends soldiers to a sudden death. In this role, she never manages to feel like a good, believable better woman, like so many other female villains that are done only as a failed inclusion play. That of course constitutes for a bad movie, when you do not have a good villain. And a story like this needs a better villain to make you feel it during the tense scenes. Of course, something we touch upon is how the love story during this movie feels forced and unnatural. But I believe we would have had a way better movie if that particular story had been more natural and less full of cliches. Nowadays, it seems almost impossible to create a love story without cliches, which is more like a dream reality rather than a real thing. In an environment like this, maybe the creation of a love story was a way for the director to shoot himself in the foot. Because like other love-intensified sci-fi movies like this one, I feel the story actually could have been better if you cut the love story dead out of the water. Of course, it would have been a completely different movie then, more like a pure thriller mystery kind of thing, but I believe that actually could have been a better movie if they did that in the other direction. This leads me on to the final talking point about this movie, which is the only real thing that I really enjoyed. These action scenes with these totally crazy beasts, which are probably humans turned mutants as part of some sort of research, is the only core thing that saves the movie from being even worse. A lot of those are not that tense either, as a lot of times the main characters just gun them down easily without breaking a sweat, But some of the moments towards the end, when you of course see the main character Miles Teller struggling the most, which is such an annoying thing in new movies these days, but nonetheless, those moments are at least something that gives you a slight dose of entertainment in an otherwise cringe love story movie. All in all, for me, this movie was mostly a complete waste of time, but because of these decent action scenes towards the end, I will give the movie a 5 out of 10, and I'm not on the side where I think the movie is that creative when the love story is so forced as it is.